what's really funny about the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind is your conscious mind is, you can think of it as your autopilot. It's what's reacting to the things that you're caring about doing throughout your day. Your subconscious mind is that state of mind that it gathers all of your experiences so that it can determine how to best protect you. It's your fight or flight. So, as we're establishing different habits, beliefs, emotional responses, this is where it's all being stored. If you're really super stressed about money or finances, well, that's going to be buried deep into your subconscious, especially if you have a really bad relationship with finances or money.
That is something I've learned through the years. You really have to associate. You've almost got to let it flow versus just having this anxiety about it. And money is one of those things that I think people either can have, they have this thing where they want to have money, but yet they have this fear of not having it. And sometimes the fear of not having it really supersedes the fact of having it. And that's the struggle. That's the struggle.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. I've been trying to get this gal on for a little bit. I've been hunting down this powerhouse to talk about one of the things that I love to discuss most, and that is mindset. Today, we are going to dive into strategies, ideas, transformation of your mindset, and we're going to hear from one of the best. So Sabrina Johnson, welcome to the show. She's the CEO of Next Win Coaching. And she's not only a great leader, but she really understands how to transform mindset. We're going to talk about this little hypnosis thing and get into the conversation about that. But listen, she's got over a decade of experience, and she's going to talk today about unlocking potential, developing groundbreaking strategies to really empower you in growing. And we're going to explore her journey as well. So without further ado, Sabrina Johnson, welcome to the show. Our guests are in for a treat today.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just back up here, right? You started in education, risk youth, special need individuals. How would that really shaped the conversation we're going to talk about today, which is mindset?
It really just showed me how many challenges that people have out there today. People that aren't used to functioning in the daily grind like we are. I mean,
Yeah.
the people that I worked with were so much fun, and they were special individuals. A lot of them really needed us for support to help to take care of
Yeah.
all of their daily needs. And so that's really shaped what I do, because it showed me the different frames of thinking that you can have in between different individuals. How it's fascinating how differently we all think. And so after working there, I actually started studying to become a hypnotherapist. And
Yes, that's what
I
I'm
was
talking
working
about.
another job on the side too. So
Yeah.
that's really all there was to it. It shaped that
Yeah.
because it made me so much more intrigued with the mind, how it works.
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to talk today. Listen, as everybody knows, actually, maybe if you don't know, if you haven't listened, but I have a huge acumen in sales development, sales execution. I go into organizations. I'll look at organizations top to bottom, from execution plan to presentation style to their framework. I mean, everything. So we're going to talk a lot about sales too today, about the sales mindset, because you do have a lot of experience in that. Which I'm really excited to even keep the conversation going after the show, because I know you and I talked about maybe doing a few things together. But
Yeah.
I want to dig into this hypnosis thing really quick. So this springboarded you into hypnosis. Can you explain to everybody what is hypnosis out there, and how you got into this into this role?
Absolutely. So at its core, hypnotherapy it's a therapeutic technique. It
Okay.
utilizes a deeply relaxed state. So when you think of meditation, that's what a deeply relaxed state looks like. And a lot of people don't realize that. But we often call these deep relaxed states trances.
Uh,
There's different vibrational wavelengths that your brain is in at any given moment. And
okay.
so this is what makes those trances happen. But these trances are what allow us to access the subconscious mind. And that's what hypnosis is all about. I'm not talking about stage hypnosis or mind control.
Uh,
It's the first thing that people think of when they think of hypnosis. So, yeah, it's none of that. it's
yeah.
it's actually quite different than what you would think. But
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't realize about it, and I'm sorry, I'll let you speak,
No, go.
is that it's a natural state of focused attention that we experience at any given point in our normal day. So, if you think about being really engrossed into a movie or a book, daydreaming, that's what this relaxed state is. So, yeah, people go into
The,
hypnosis at any given point during their day.
well, it really is. And do you know Wayne Dyer by any chance? Are
I've
you
heard
familiar
his
with some of his stuff? Okay,
work.
he's really into the subconscious mind, and he does a lot in this space. And I started reading some of his books years back, and they're almost addictive at this point. But not only I really like to listen to his books because he's got a really cool voice anyway.
Yeah.
But he really talks a lot about the subconscious and releasing that, because I think so many times people get so focused on what they want to accomplish and they work sometimes so hard for it that they're actually blocking what they want to do, right?
Absolutely.
Versus loosening up. I mean, how many times have and this does happen to me a lot, where I'll be thinking about something, and all of a sudden I'm just like, all right, I'm going to let it go. And then the next thing you know, like an hour later, maybe a day later, however long later, like this whole thing comes to you on a
Yeah.
solution or an idea. Is that similar to a hypnosis thing where you just kind of let it go, you throw it in the back of your mind, or you're just so relaxed that you're not thinking about it and all of a sudden it just jumps into your face?
It can be similar. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Um,
Okay.
what's really funny about the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind is your conscious mind is, you can think of it as your autopilot.
Okay.
It's what's reacting to the things that you're caring about doing throughout your day. Your subconscious mind is that state of mind that it gathers all of your experiences so that it can determine how to best protect you. It's your fight or flight.
Yes.
So, as we're establishing different habits, beliefs, emotional responses, this is where it's all being stored. So,
Yeah, that
it's,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Makes a
If
lot
you're
of
really
sense.
super stressed about money or finances, well, that's going to be buried deep into your subconscious, especially if you have a really bad relationship with finances or money.
Yeah. That is something I've learned through the years. You really have to associate. You've almost got to let it flow versus just having this anxiety about it. And money is one of those things that I think people either can have. They have this thing where they want to have money, but yet they have this fear of not having it. And sometimes the fear of not having it really supersedes the fact of having it, and that's the struggle. That's the struggle.
You
Yeah,
hit that
it's
spot on.
yeah, and let's talk about this because this kind of leads me in my next question, which I've been thinking about here. Listen, self-doubt is one of those things that many, many, many people struggle with, right? It's just natural. We're wired this way as human. And I don't know why when things it go maybe not the way that we plan, the first thing that we do is we always go into this negative deal, like you were saying, the fight or flight deal. But more of our brains are so wired to go into the negative when easily we could just go more into the positive. And there was this conditioning technique I learned years ago that I still apply to that. Like if you're going into a negative spot, you almost have to pinch yourself or almost take that thought and rip it up and focus on more energy on the positive. But what's your process in helping somebody overcome like limiting beliefs to their potential?
The process is really going to vary differently from individual to individual because it
Okay.
really depends on how far deep is this belief, how long have they carried it, and what was it formed from. So we really have to kind of dig deep, get past all the usual mental chatter, so to speak, and really get to the root and the heart of the issue. And the way that we do that is through the subconscious. So um, there's a few different relaxation techniques that I like to use. One
Okay.
is I always focus on breathing. So the first thing that we do is we control our breathing. We get into a relaxed state. And I'll do the breathing exercise with you. I have one that is my favorite.
Okay.
Them do this 3 times at the start of our session, just so that they're relaxing and getting into wanting to talk about things instead of being clenched and uptight. So that's the first thing that we do. Now, when it comes to starting that process of change, I take them through that slowly. And again, depending on how what their beliefs are of hypnosis, how easily they're able to get into a trance state. And so there's a few things we can do. If you catch
Okay.
yourself thinking negatively throughout the day, yes, you could pinch yourself, but that requires some conscious thought. So no
Uh-huh.
matter what you do, you have to consciously bring those thoughts to your awareness. And sometimes that's not easy because we don't always recognize that. But that's also what hypnosis is for. We can make sure that you're bringing those thoughts to the forefront through hypnosis so that you're more self-aware and recognizing them. And there's a technique that we like to use. It's called tapping.
Okay.
You can signal them to tap their pointer finger and their thumb together like this throughout the day, which
Uh-huh.
triggers them to think about, oh, I'm thinking negatively, I need to get into that positive mindset. So that's one technique that we can use. There's also a few others, but we wouldn't have time to cover them all. That's
Okay.
so we'll go with it.
All right. So tapping. I'm gonna instead of pinching, I'm gonna start tapping a little bit. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Listen, you talked about change, okay?
Mhm.
And growth and change. Listen, again, as humans, a lot of us, there's some people who I personally like change because I know I'm growing, but
Yeah.
you teach people to embrace growth without resistance, okay? Because the biggest reason people resist change, I mean, really, what in your eyes, what are the biggest reasons? I mean, I was going to really start blabbing about what I thought, but I'm not the expert here. But realistically, what are some of the biggest reasons people resist change, and how can they shift that perspective?
It stems from fear. People are naturally resistant to change because, again, since we're wired through that bad experience and we're wired to go more towards the negative, that's what makes us say, hey, wait a second, this is different than what I'm used to. And so your body tries to protect you from it. It doesn't matter if it's change that's good for you or not, it's still scary. And so
Right.
that's where that reluctance comes from, fear.
And what is and I think it really goes full circle to what we talked about earlier. The fear is the negative thought of what could happen, right? When actually it could turn out pretty damn good
It
also.
could. It
But
really
we but why do we put so much energy towards the fear versus the opportunity of the what really could happen as a reward too? Because they're both equal, right? Like it could go either way.
it can be. And mainly it goes down to those deep rooted subconscious beliefs. If you're somebody that's
Yeah.
excited about change, you may be a little bit reluctant, but you're going to smoothly pass through, as opposed to somebody that maybe had suffered a lot of abuse in childhood and
Yeah.
can't trust people easily. So it really just depends on the severity of the circumstances that
Yeah.
makes you most reluctant.
That makes so much, and that's one of the things that I was talking about this in one of my last podcasts, and it's about breaking those barriers and thresholds. I
Yeah.
talk about this when I talk about mindset, and it's these thresholds you have to break when you're doing something new or doing something outside the box or doing something for the unknown. Because when you can break into these thresholds and actually recognize them, it would build your confidence to keep moving to the next level and the
Absolutely.
next stage. And that's my philosophy. And we're going to talk here about sales in a second here. But to be a leader, you have to have things such as resilience and high performance habits and things like that. So I know you speak to this, but what are some daily habits or routines that you believe can help someone become a stronger performer or a higher performer?
I love that question. So the first thing that I would suggest is reframing the way that you speak to yourself. So if you're somebody that you can be confident and project confidence without being fully confident in yourself. So if you're somebody that is lacking a little bit of confidence, I would tell you, instead of saying something like, I'm not good enough, reframe that to say, I am good enough. It's just that one little
Yeah,
simple shift in the way that you word things that helps you to move forward. So it's all about those small steps. And that's one of the first habits I would start.
just a little quick turn. Isn't it
Just
amazing?
a little.
Yeah,
Yes. And
just
if
a
you
little
do that
quick turn.
every day, imagine how much further you're going to get.
Yeah, because you just start conditioning yourself in a more positive way, and again, um, it's all about. I always say good inputs, good outputs. You start telling yourself the right things. You start focusing on the right things. You start surrounding yourself with the right people. Everything starts falling in line, and the universe just conspires with you to make this stuff work when you really put your mindset forward. And it's not easy. It really is not easy.
Well,
But you do have to, it comes back to conditioning we were talking about earlier. Okay. Listen, I want to talk mindset and sales. Okay. Because I know we have a lot of alignment here. You work with sales professionals as a whole, organizations as a whole. Mindset and sales, you emphasize mindset obviously is the key to success. What are some of the most common, okay, mindset blocks that hold people back in sales and in business in general?
limiting beliefs. They don't believe that they can get up there to, if there's somebody that's in your company that's consistently year over year just doing the best out of the entire
Yeah,
company, they just don't believe that they'll be up there with them. They want to be, and they can want to be,
yeah,
but deep down inside they just don't believe that they can, because they can't imagine themselves in that position making that kind of money when they've been so used to being a bracket down. So that's one of the most popular ones.
great. How important is goal setting?
It's extremely important. If you
Okay,
want to overcome any negative patterns or habits, you really have to start small with that little shift of
yeah.
positivity.
Yeah, you say start small because I think people, when they hear goal setting, they get so damn overwhelmed, right? Like one of
Mhm.
the first episodes I did this year on Unfinished Business was I like to do these solo episodes, and they're called Sharpen Your Axe, and it was on goal setting. And I don't I remember the number. Okay, I want to say like only 16% of all people in the country set goals, like actually write them down.
Right.
Like it was
Uncheck
like a
them off.
yeah, and check right, totally. So what is the fear? I think again, actually, I already answered it. What is the holdback on doing this? And I would say what you were probably going to say. Is it fear that's holding people back from doing this? Is
Absolutely.
it the discipline? What is it?
It's a little bit of both, because
Yeah,
And it kind of relies on your drive as well. So how much of a salesperson are you that really wants to go after it and get it? You're going to try your best at every
Yeah.
turn to do so, still being held back.
Yep.
But the moment you check off a few goals from your list, you're visualizing what you're getting done as you're getting it done. And so seeing that shift makes your mind believe it, and you feel that belief. And that's how it starts to change things for you.
It really does. This is a crazy story, and I've had a number of these things happen, and I just tell the story because we're on this conversation.
Yeah.
Um, so I was in Phoenix. We were in Phoenix I was there for 25 years, and my wife and I and the kids were there. And like, I don't know, maybe 10. It could have been 10 years ago, maybe roughly probably, let's call it 8 to 10 years ago. We knew we wanted to move to Park City. Okay. We knew we wanted to move there. So I had this folder where, I would take snapshots of things on the computer that as far as desires and things that I saw that I wanted in my life, either personally or professionally, whatever it could be. Well, yeah, kind of a list like that, but even achievements and I took a snapshot of this home in Park City that I liked, and I saw it and I threw it in a folder. Anyway, fast forward, we moved to Park City about 2 years ago. And I was cleaning up my computer and I went through this file and I found it. And I pulled up the snapshot of this home. The home is a mile down the street from where I live right now.
Oh, wow.
So when you talk about manifestations, and also I saw one with Jim Carrey, like he wrote himself a check like in 2001 for $2 million at a certain date. And like he actually had his first movie deal for $2 million or $2 million. That was the number. But talk to me about your belief in manifestations.
So this is a funny topic for me because manifestation is all about seeing yourself there. And that's really all it is. You're manifesting what you want by seeing and visualizing yourself there.
Yeah.
And that's all manifestation is. People don't think of it like that, but it naturally happens every day. You manifest things whether you know it or not every day. It's energy movement. That's all it is. And once people start to see that, once that clicks, well, then watch out. But yeah, I love manifestation. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's a hobby.
Really? And do you practice that? It's a hobby for you too?
I do.
Do you have any things that have like come out, similar story I was explaining about, that where you've manifested it and it's come together?
Yes. And at this point, I've manifested without even realizing that I was actually manifesting it. One of the things that I manifested was a brand new stove. I was completely unexpecting it, but I got to thinking the one day, I was like, man, it would be really nice just to have a new stove. Mine has a crack in the glass. It lets the heat out. Like it was terrible. And the next day after I was really thinking about that deeply of, what I would do with this new stove, the first thing I would do would bake a batch of cookies because I had a hankering for them. The next day my husband comes home, hey, look what I found on sale. I got a really good deal on it too. And it was a brand new stove.
Oh, that's funny. That's
so it's
funny.
these little small things that seem like coincidences at this point that happen just from me really thinking about it and visualizing myself having that.
It's fantastic. I truly believe in that. Like and listen, here's my thing too. You can't just like say, hey, I want to achieve this and then like put it in the back of your mind and then not put an effort towards it. Like you have to have these intentional efforts. And what I always say is if you're putting the intention towards being better, stronger, or whatever you're trying to do, things, like I said, the universe kind of conspires with you to make things come your way, either that you had in the back of your mind, or maybe that you haven't seen before. But realistically, I'm a true believer in that. Let's shift gears here and let's talk about your role of like NLP. And, we talked a little bit about the hypnosis earlier, but your Ericksonian hypnosis. Okay, you're certified in NLP, Ericksonian. Can you explain to everybody what that is?
So Ericksonian hypnosis is just another technique for doing hypnotherapy.
Yes.
The person that invented the Ericksonian technique, of course, that's his last name.
Yeah.
And it's really just there's not too much of a difference other than the fact that he really had some different beliefs in hypnotherapy. So the way that he practiced it was a more controlled practice. It was less obvious. It blended in. And when you use Ericksonian style hypnosis combined with NLP, well, then it really just gives you a gentle easing into a hypnosis session. It's not a sleep and you're down
Right.
type of a
Like
hypnosis.
those. Yes.
Right. It is let's get you relaxed, really comfortable, open up, we'll ease you into this process. So that's the best way to think of Ericksonian hypnosis.
Gotcha. And then NLP. Tell us what NLP is.
So when I say NLP, people think of the computer language. It's not. It is neuro-linguistic programming. So what it does is it emphasizes the connection between language, thought, and behavior. So
Okay.
it allows you to identify and change things like limiting beliefs, the patterns, so that you're achieving what you really want to achieve. That's really what it is at the core. If you want the technical definition of it, it is a set of techniques and principles that focus on influencing human behavior. And I hate to use the word influencing.
Right. Right.
It sounds like a nasty word, but that's really what it is down to its core. It's a method of communication, taking advantage of how easily you are to be influenced.
Yeah, I would say better word to use, and again, I'm not the expert, but conditioning would probably be a much better word to use in that space.
It is a much better word, but
Yeah.
Those technical definitions always stick in my head. That's what we were taught
So,
in school.
so with being certified in this, how do you apply these techniques in sales, leadership, personal development, especially in the sales world for all those professionals out there who want to start increasing their performance? How do you apply these techniques to really help build somebody to be a better performer mentally?
So when I'm using NLP, I'm helping people. It's just a communication style. You can think of it like that. And it enhances the communication that you do have. So if you have a good style of communication that's positive, where I say, hey, David, why don't you picture where you would be in 5 years from now? Where does that take you? If I say something like that, that is getting into NLP language. More
Gotcha.
specifically, I would say, David, imagine yourself on the beach, relaxed, sipping a Mai Tai. What do you feel in this moment? And that's how I use it in sales. I ask them to imagine themselves as that number one salesperson.
Yes.
What does that feel like to you? How
Yeah.
powerful do you feel in that moment?
I love that because it really is the visual. And I really, we're crossing the line here again of manifestation, right? Like,
Yes.
How do you want to feel when you get to that point? Like, picture yourself at that moment. And I think so many times we get so caught up on the first steps or the second steps, if we can just take that moment and how we feel, put it in the back of our mind, because it will manifest there. It will. And then again, like I said earlier, you've got to put the actions and the effort towards getting, the world's just not going to open up and have things happen for you. But you've got to put the effort in to really
You
be
have to
focused on.
feel it, and that's what it's really about. It's attached to those feelings. If you picture yourself there, but you don't really feel that moment, it's not going to manifest for you.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. If, for advice for entrepreneurs, because a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this show, a lot of business professionals listen to this show, if you could give them one piece of advice, maybe they're struggling right now to gain traction. Maybe not their sales performance is not where it needs to be. They know that it needs to improve. The business is not running as well as they think it should be. What kind of advice would you give an entrepreneur or sales professional struggling with that?
So if they're not getting results, they're struggling there. Of course, I would take them back to the data first and let them look at some of those trends so that they can pick out some of the obvious things. But if we're talking about the real performance, then I'm going to want to know, what is the last thing that you did differently than what you're doing today? What did you change most recently? We're going to make you think of those changes personally and professionally. Because if you can recognize some of the differences from where you were when you were ranked at the top to where you are now, which is maybe in fourth, then that's a trigger moment for you. It forces you to really think about what it is that you're doing, how you can control it. So that's the first piece of advice I would give you, is look at all of that.
It's something interesting you said here. I'm going to cut in because you talked about data. And so much of this, all that we've been talking about here is mindset, what's between the ears, conditioning yourself. Talk to me about how much data plays into working, and we'll come back to maybe the answer that I just asked, but you've really got me on thinking here. How much of your technique do you apply data in the business world or professional world with the cognitive, intentionality of being successful? Is that something you look at first, the data, or how do you approach it? Because it's interesting you said it. Yeah, it's really interesting.
So when you think of the sales process, you think of all of the data that is used so that you can compare those sales with the marketing that you're using. You have all of these different operations that come together to have a successful sale. So ultimately, the first thing we want to do is make sure that it isn't something about the process that's affecting those sales. So I do look at some of that data, and specifically the trends. What have you seen trending in the last 3 to 6 months? Because that can tell a lot. And then if you combine those trends with, now we have a leader who just lost somebody really close to them. So we're starting to mix it in with some of those emotional responses. And we see that his performance started to decline during that time. Well, that tells me it's not necessarily about the processes in sales that are affecting it, more so than that personal loss, and how can we help him to manage that, or her.
Yeah, right. Because everybody has lives, right? I think, more so these days, I believe organizations, especially the ones that I've worked with most recently, they really do recognize that people have lives, they have things going on, and you have to factor that in to just part of being in an organization where, years ago it's like, all right, this is it. We don't want to hear about your personal life. It's this is what we have to do here. And there's an approach to that has its pros and pros as well. But I think you realistically have to have that human factor in everything that you do. And when performance drops with an individual, let me ask you this. Yeah. I mean, when performance drops with an individual who's maybe on top of their game, something is going. How do you work with somebody like that? And I know every situation's a little bit different, but what's one of your first approaches?
So I'm going to use an example of somebody that was very reluctant, because individuals who are reluctant, as crazy as it sounds, they're some of my favorite to work with, because it's fun when they see results at the end and they were reluctant to believe that it was something that was going to work for them. So there was this one guy that I was working with, and I never name names, and I don't ever give specifics.
Sure.
So nobody's going to
Wouldn't
know.
expect it. Yeah.
But anyways, he was really reluctant to work with me because, first of all, he had seen a lot of stuff on TV about hypnosis. It was all that stage performance. It was the snap of the finger, knocking people out and forgetting their names, things like that. So I had to combat that before we even started to combat the processes of where he was declining in performance at work, because it was a combination. He was usually a very gentle person, but for this specific time frame of, I think it was about 3 to 6 months actually, that he was snappy. He was just not himself. And people saw that. They recognized that.
Yeah.
So what was the question I was answering again? Because I'm forgetting that as I go.
No, the question was really geared around when you worked with a professional who was on top of their game, and then they are falling off. Like, what is one of the very first things that you like to do in going in and helping them?
That's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's why it's called unfinished business. It's never finished.
So one of the first things that I like to do is, again, just discover how they're feeling. So we look at all of those processes. How are you feeling? What is it that's affecting you? It sounds so obvious, but when you're standing back looking at a problem that you've had for 3 months and can't find that solution, it usually goes back to the basics of looking at, well, who was involved? How were they affected? How were they feeling? Why is this happening? And you can usually ask the who, what, where, when, and why to figure those things out. I take everybody back to the basics.
Back to the basics. Yeah. Back to the basics. So, listen, a few more questions. This has been fantastic, by the way, Sabrina. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sorry for my brain lapse for a second.
No, that's fine. Sometimes I'll do that too. Like, I'll ask a question and I'll go, wait a second. And I'll have another question in my mind, and I go for the next one. I'm like, wait, I forgot where I was at. But what's the next thing for you and Next Win Coaching? Like, what's one of your goals, your missions, things that you're still working on to achieve?
That's a great question. One of my missions is always to have a big impact on mindset. Today, we see individuals that are struggling in just about any position that you can think of. They've been unemployed for 6 months. And the longer that you're in that unemployment position, the more you start to feel down and depressed.
Yeah.
You get yourself into this funk. And so I really want to have an impact on those individuals, helping them to understand that they truly can choose to be positive, even though this bad circumstance may be happening right now. So that's one of the biggest things I want to achieve.
Yeah, I think that's just, and I say this a lot at the end here. I've been saying it more recently, but go out and get a win. I don't care how small it is. You know, I've been coaching these partners in a company. They own this franchise, and the one they've just had some bad things personally for each of them. And again, I won't name names either, but towards the end of the year, and we were talking through right after the new year, and obviously they've been thrown off track. But I tell them, I said, listen, my thing for them on the one meeting we had that kind of sparked everything was go out today. And I don't care how small it is, and I don't care how big it is, just go get a win.
Exactly.
Focus on getting a win each day and recognize it. Yeah, and recognize it.
It can
And
be small.
it could be small.
I got out
Because
of bed
there's going to be
today.
therapy. Yeah. Yes.
Good job.
Right. Yes.
When you're in
Right.
that position, it takes a lot.
Yeah. So I for years, I stack wins now. Like I stack wins. Like today I got up early, worked out. Like I stacked that. That was a win right there. Boom. Good meeting today. Stack that. Like I'm stacking wins now. But it all starts with one. And if you can start one, whether how small it is, and then put another one on top of it, I don't care how small that one is. It's like the momentum starts building. So I'm a big believer in just getting a win. And all of you out there, go out there right now. Just go get a win today. If you're listening to this podcast, go get a win. Or if it's later in the day and you're listening to this tomorrow, set up your day, get a win early. And I promise you the momentum will start. So I'm really big into that. All right, listen, where can people reach out to you if they want some coaching for their team, if they want some personal coaching, if they want anything around mindset, where can they reach out to you and find you, Sabrina?
So the most obvious is LinkedIn. You'll find me all over LinkedIn. We do some hot seat coaching events on LinkedIn, so you get a chance to ask a bunch of questions that you may have. You can message me. And of course, my website, which is Next Win. So go ahead, contact me for your next win. And it we'll have the website address in the comments down below. But those are the two main places
We'll do that.
Connect.
Excellent. Well, listen, everybody, this is Sabrina. This has been a great show. I want to thank you for being here today at Unfinished Business. We're getting some great traction on the show. For all of you out there, I always say this, just like this show, share it with one person. The momentum we've had actually this start of this year has been fantastic through the first quarter. So feedback's been great. And I always say, because it's guests like you, Sabrina, who are here. So thank you for being here today. And again, for all of you out there, wealth, health, success, go out, like I just said, go get that win, whether big or small, go get a win, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you, David.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.